Hi there, my name is Caitlin Moose and I taped my mouth shut for 30 days. Kinky. No, it's not weird like that. Well, okay, it's a little weird, but let me explain. So recently I read a really fascinating book called Breath by James Nestor, and I highly recommend you picking up a copy. I'll put the link down in the description or go check it out at your local library, whatever. Just read it, because I have completely gone down the rabbit hole on breathing. So in the book, James Nestor talks a lot about how the way that we're breathing is killing us. And that is quite a statement to say, but I think he does a really great job of backing it up. This is just a little paragraph in the introduction where he talks about meeting free divers, or like people who hold their breath for 12 minutes at a time to go underwater. So story time. Another diver told me that some methods of breathing will nourish our brains while others will kill neurons. Some will make us healthy while others will hasten our death. They told crazy stories about how they'd breathed in ways that expanded the size of their lungs by 30% or more. They told me about an Indian doctor who lost several pounds by simply changing the way he inhaled, and another man who was injected with the bacterial endotoxin E. coli, then breathed in a rhythmic pattern to stimulate his immune system and destroy the toxin within minutes. They told me about women who put their cancers into remission, and monks who could melt circles in the snow around their bare bodies over a period of several hours. It all sounded nuts. It all sounded nuts. And it does all sound nuts, but also really, really cool and intriguing if I think it is. But, you know, you probably clicked away from this video already if you think it doesn't. So the book details a lot of different research and experiments, and one solution that I think so many of us could work on is mouth breathing.
Mouth breather.
Yes, calling myself out here. I know it's not like a fun talk to have, but so many of us in modern society are mouth breathers. And a lot of that can even come from, I had really bad allergies and I would get chronic sinus infections. And the problem is that when you can't breathe through your nose, then it becomes harder to breathe through your nose, and then you just stop using it. So if that's you, I feel your pain, and there are a lot of different practices and techniques that he gives you for kind of clearing out your sinuses and being able to force air through your nose again. But just this one simple daily practice involves taping your mouth at night. So sleeping with mouth tape. Let me tell you a little bit about why I wanted to try this out and why it caught my attention as something that I might need improvement on in my own life. We're facing so many different health problems as a society in modern times. There's so many people with problems of snoring, dry mouth, sleep apnea, diabetes, hypertension, chronic sinus infections, asthma, anxiety, and even ADHD. And this just really caught my attention because the claim in this book is that you can really address a lot of those problems with breath. Now that's not to say that this is a cure-all and that modern medicine is not effective in helping people out, but just when you have any kind of poor habit and it accumulates over years of doing the same thing, that's gonna have these negative consequences. I'm sitting there like, okay, again, to call myself out, my siblings have enjoyed telling me that I snore, and I've always had chronic sinus infections, like multiple sinus infections a year. Anxiety is practically a personality trait at this point. And I know my dad has sleep apnea and he's got the big CPAP machine. So many people are really struggling with that, literally choking themselves in their sleep. So trying the mouth tape seemed like an easy solution to try something out for a little bit. But why are we having these problems? In the book, Nestor talks about humans being the only species that have consistent dental problems. And you know this, probably you or someone you know has had braces. And so crazy to think about. You think about your pets and they don't have teeth problems. I did have a rabbit have major teeth problems, but that's why I said consistent dental issues across the human race. And when you look at the skulls of our ancient ancestors, you'll see that they also had perfect teeth and these big, wider jawbones and nice aligned teeth. So it's like, what happened? When we started cooking our food and having more access to food in general and better access to nutrients within that food, we grew bigger brains. And in order to compensate for that growth, I hope I get all of this right, but that's why you need to read the book and not listen to just YouTube videos. Our sinus cavities shrank and we have smaller mouths and even airways can be more easily blocked. So not only did cooking foods make our brains bigger, but it also made the food softer. So we weren't having to chew as much, where we'd gone from hours a day of really chewing these harder, more fibrous substances to much softer cooked food. So not only did our skulls have to compensate for a bigger brain, we also weren't using our jaw muscles nearly as much, so our jaws became less developed. And now in many people, you'll see the recessed chin and your recessed jawline, and mouth breathing exacerbates the problem. I'd say about a year ago, I came across Mewing, which I had never heard of. And just to give you a quick little recap, so Mewing was started by Dr. John Mew, and it's essentially corrective oral posture. So placing your tongue behind your teeth and on the roof of your mouth and lifting so that you're putting pressure, and it creates a more defined jawline and kind of keeps your teeth straight by placing pressure on them to expand outward. You're lifting the back of your tongue into your soft palate. That was even an exercise that we did in my 30 days face yoga challenge. Her version of it was kind of putting your hand here with some tension here, but still doing that same movement. And there are all kinds of videos online of people doing this and having incredible results with it, where you just get a more, I don't even know how to describe it, I guess like a more prominent jawline. It's one of those things where I've been a little nervous to try Mewing full out, and I don't even know if it would work because I wear a retainer every night. If you have seen my channel at all, you're probably familiar with the fact that I've had braces twice. That was once in like middle and high school when people usually get braces, and then again as an adult. And I've been very sad to learn, like really sad, that earlier methods of straightening teeth involved that expansion that we were talking about of keeping your teeth further out to create room for them. Whereas now when it comes to overcrowding and we have these smaller mouths, orthodontists usually prescribe teeth extraction. So I had, all 6 wisdom teeth taken out. Yes, I had 6, I know. And I had all 6 wisdom teeth taken out, and I had 4, I believe at this point, geez, I don't know, 4 permanent teeth removed. Because they're like, you have a tiny mouth, and great. But basically, in order to make space for everything, taking out teeth as opposed to pushing everything out. Mewing goes into the techniques of actually developing not just muscles, but actual bone growth. So you're restructuring your face. It's really fascinating, but it's also, you need to be careful because you could push things in the wrong direction. And I've seen people with kind of splayed teeth from it. So I personally haven't gone about doing it because I had a different route with braces and everything, and I don't know if that would screw things up. So we'll see what I decide in the future. But another thing that I had learned about even prior to Mewing was the Wim Hof breathing method. I thought it was insane and this really cool thing, but for the most part, I just saw it as like, okay, Iceman surviving in these incredible like Arctic conditions. It felt more like the crowd of self-improvement gurus that wake up at 4 a.m. and take ice cold showers and, are ready to start their day. So I did Wim Hof a couple of times, but I hadn't really incorporated it into my daily routine. So let me know if you want to see monthly challenges with either of those 2 things. But this video is all about mouth taping. I really loved how this book really pulls it all together because he talks about Mewing, he talks about Wim Hof, and a lot of different other breathing methods and research, and it's just, like I said, beyond fascinating. But I want to get back to the challenge of mouth taping at night. So I took the recommended route of James Nestor in the book, just used a little piece of surgical tape about a postage stamp size across the mouth. Just something like this, not a big piece or anything like that, and just something like that. And the reason that I went with the surgical tape is because this was a pack of 2 for a couple of dollars, whereas I've seen people with the mouth breathing strips be like $20 for a pack that might last you a month. So this is much more cost effective. It doesn't have a terrible sticky residue. And if you need to, you can breathe out of the corners of your mouth, you can speak still. It's not as scary as I thought it would be because I was definitely concerned of suffocating myself in my sleep. It just works like a little bit of a reminder to train your brain to say, nope, we're breathing through our nose right now. But in an emergency, I could absolutely breathe through my mouth. Not worried about suffocating or anything like that. And then the next thing I did was I got a snore tracking app on my phone. And what this does is it literally records the sounds that you make throughout the whole night and charts it for you so that you can see how loud your snoring is, how often, at what time does it peak, And I was so surprised. Most nights I was coming in at under 6 minutes of snoring. 4 minutes of snoring, 2 minutes of snoring. It was insane. And I know that it was picking up noises because sometimes it would track me as snoring when really it was like a train going by in the distance. Like that's how sensitive to noise it was picking up. And also I could hear some of the larger spikes in volume were from me tossing and turning, so you could hear those noises as well. And I will say, I definitely think it works. I tried it for a few nights after the 30-day challenge, and it's not that my snoring increased a ton, because I thought maybe, you know, I was just snoring for hours all night. But it was up to more like 30 minutes or something. I think I have seen changes also when I've, you know, exercised that day or depending on what I had to eat or drink. So it's kind of interesting getting to know your body that way and see how it reacts to certain foods or if you've had alcohol, that kind of thing, to see how that affects your sleep habits. But if you clicked on this video to ask yourself the question, should I try mouth taping at night? I would say yes, go for it. It's very low investment, low risk, easy to see if it's gonna make a difference in your life. In terms of just reminding yourself to breathe through your nose, sleep is such a huge chunk of time in our lives. You know, you're asleep a third of your life, so it's a good way to get in that practice. I have heard of people kind of doing the mouth taping for a few months and then they've just trained themselves to sleep with their mouth closed. So that's probably what I'll be trying to do, because I don't necessarily want to sleep with tape over my mouth for the rest of my life. But all right guys, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.